Welcome back to Lucy and Russ Property Chat. Today we're going to talk to you a little bit about fire safety. Fire safety in houses of multiple occupation, HMOs, is a big issue. It's a big risk and it's something that needs to be managed. We own a company called Rent a Room where we manage over 400 rooms in the Coventry and Warwickshire area. And we have a number of staff who are trained to conduct fire risk assessments before a property is started to be let, and then each year we would review that fire risk assessment for the landlord. So about property today, which has got lots of things we can talk about that we would look at on a fire risk assessment, and I just want to share some of those with you today, so that if you're designing a HMO or you've got one already, you can maybe think, does any of this apply to you? So we're downstairs at the moment in the middle of a 3-storey, 6-bed HMO, and this one has quite a big electrical cupboard here. So the electrical cupboard is one place that we would always look to see where there's potential hazards. So you can see this one actually has 3-phase electric coming in, and there's quite a big storage area as well. Now, one thing we find will often happen with areas like this is that tenants will see this as an invitation to store their boxes that they've had their brand new TV delivered in. They'll put the cardboard boxes, all the packaging will all be piled up in here. Suitcases, bags of old clothes that they're throwing out will all be put in here. So this needs to be checked regularly and cleared out of all of those excess items. Within this as well, some of the things that I would point out, you've actually got some coat rail hooks here. Now I'd imagine these have probably been up since long before it was let as a HMO, but this is just encouraging people to put things here that shouldn't be here, given the building's current use and purpose. So I would recommend that these are taken down to stop encouraging people to put their coats there. This should also be boarded in 30-minute pink fireboard, and this frame should be a fire door frame. The fire door itself is fitted, which is good, and it's got the intermittent strips here with the cold smoke seals. So in the event of a fire, these would actually give around about a 30-minute protection for the smoke. So if there was a fire in here, it would stop the smoke coming out through the door, and it's actually the smoke often that will kill people rather than the heat. The door itself, solid door, fire door, FD30 rated, and this will stop the fire actually burning through. So it'll take about 30 minutes for a flame to burn through this, which should give adequate time for the sounders to go off, for everybody to exit the building safely, and the fire brigade to come around the corner and put out whatever the issue is. Now, one other thing to think about, and we would always check, is the fire door and how well it closes. So there's this one, but also all of the bedrooms. We would want to make sure that the closer here at the top pulls the door fairly quickly shut, and then there's a last tug and it shuts nice and smoothly, and the door handle engages, so that we know the fire door is actually doing its job. So let's just check this one here. So you can see it closes quite quickly, and then it's nice and flush, and then the seal, you shouldn't be able to get much more than £1 coin in between the door frame and the door. That's a kind of an easy test, around about 3 to 4 millimetres. If you can get anything more than that, then your fire door really is being breached. In terms of fire safety, different authorities have different views on this, but certainly when there's cooking facilities in a room or in a kitchen, they would expect a fire blanket, but they would probably expect one a little bit more common than this. This doesn't actually have an expiry date on it, this one. It looks fairly old, but it does say withdraw blanket from the container every 12 months and unfold, check for damage and make sure it's not disintegrated. Now I've got a feeling that if we open this up, it's so old it might disintegrate, so I think that can probably go out and we'll get a new one. We've got the fire extinguisher here in the corner. Now typically in the West Midlands, the advice is that they don't actually like fire extinguishers in a property, because there's a risk that tenants aren't trained and will use the wrong fire extinguisher on the wrong type of flame and actually make the problem worse. The other thing is it encourages them to stay in and try to fight the fire. Unless it's a small fire that can be covered by a fire blanket, the fire brigade's advice now is just to get people out of the building and let the professionals deal with it. The other thing that I'd have an issue with here, I've mentioned this on a couple of other videos we've done around safety, is that this socket really is too close to this sink here that's been installed. So I bet these sockets have been in here a lot longer than the sink. Landlords tried to provide some extra provisions, and this actually isn't 100% safe. We've got some meters here in the individual rooms, and there's a bit of an issue here that these cables are exposed. So this is something that we would flag up on a fire risk assessment. We would expect this to be boxed in a box covered in 30-minute fire protected plasterboard, plastered, painted with some kind of cover on it for access, because there's lots of cables here that tenants can fiddle about and play with and effectively cause themselves an issue. So let's pop upstairs. There's a couple of other things that I'm going to point out to you. We've got the fire panel here, so this needs to be turned on and tested, and then regularly tested in the property and then by an engineer every 12 months. As you come up the stairs, the exits here need to be clear so that everybody can get out, and the carpet needs to be fixed securely. Again, I've done a little video about the things that we check regularly as a managing agent. We've got the cool point here, which needs to be tested, and the emergency lighted fitting. In these properties as well, we've got some fairly old appliances, so we would expect these to be pat tested every 12 months, and a record of that should be seen by the fire risk assessor before they actually sign off the property's fire risk assessment. So let's keep going upstairs. So this is up now to the second floor, so on the first floor now, we're going up to the second floor. Now you can see previously there's a hook here that's actually supported a fire extinguisher for safety. The only problem is it's actually in the line of escape. And what this would do is, if there was a fire extinguisher, this side, if there was a fire extinguisher here on the wall, it would actually push people towards the thinner wedge of the step. So I suspect there's no fire extinguisher here anymore, because the fire risk assessor has said this is actually causing more of a danger than it's helping prevent. So we've then got, as we come up onto the top floor, you might recognise this flat from some other videos we've done. We'd also be looking at then, are the escape windows easy to open? Can you get out of them? Is there enough room in here? And with an escape window, the rule of thumb generally is it's less about you getting out. It's actually about a firefighter wearing breathing apparatus getting it in, because the chances are that they'll still be conscious and you won't be. So making sure there's escape windows, particularly on the upper floors, and clear escape routes down. So a little bit about fire safety there. We are, as Rent a Room, trained and competent to do fire risk assessments for HMOs. If you want to talk to us about that, drop us a message. Otherwise, subscribe to our content, and hopefully we'll be able to give you some more tips and tricks on managing HMOs in the future.